Why should much lesser people of today following Christianity are making claims which were never made by the founders of Christianity? And what does suffering play? What part does suffering play in the scheme of Allah's things? And what is suffering in reality and its relative values? And is that not true that sometimes suffering becomes pleasure, and lack of suffering becomes suffering in hell? All in relative terms. If a child is suffering whom the mother watches and can't help him in any way, her suffering which will be much, much more than for a mother who suffers for the child and relieves him of some suffering. So just to say suffering is not enough. The religious people suffer for the sake of higher ideals and higher values, so apparently they go through the suffering, yet they enjoy that suffering that is relief to them. So suffering is not an easy, simple word. It has to be understood in relative terms. In many situations it will have to be interpreted differently. And just the claim that you come and your suffering goes, this claim is not made by religious books, because they call you to suffer for a cause, in fact. They invite you to suffering. Those who were invited by Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, because of accepting that invitation, they started suffering. And the same was true of Adam, and the same was true of Noah and the prophets after him. And it was true in its maximum of Hadhrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's true today or ever here. For an Ahmadi to become an Ahmadi is to suffer. So here our claim is exactly the opposite. We say this is the sign of truth, that we call first towards suffering and people accept it. And seeing eye to eye the suffering, they accept it. That means they are honest and they are true. They are not just easy seekers of comforts. Unless they have faith, a higher and superior faith in something, they can't suffer. So suffering is a proof of truth rather than the otherwise. So this claim has to be first verified and thrashed out, and then ultimately whatever is left of it, that can be handled so easily. Yes, please.
Well, I think we should give someone else a turn.
Maybe one?
We give someone else a turn now?
It's up to you.
No, I'll give someone else a turn.
It's all right.
Thank you.
Yes, please. Because you can't come here daily, you know. So those who live here and have opportunities to come and meet me so often, I wanted them to show patience for your sake and give you opportunity. Please. He will also come from somewhere else, so I have given him a chance.
I want to get some information about institution of mysticism in Islam.
You want to ask about what?
Mysticism, Sufism.
What is the word you use?
Mysticism.
No, that I know.
Information.
Yes, sir. That is the word I can understand. On mysticism, I have already spoken in response to a question sent by some English gentleman who was deeply interested in Islam and who had written to me. And that cassette is available.
About the gradation of this Kutub course, whether they are recognized or...
I have already spoken generally on these things. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Discussing with a Christian, I talked about their belief man born in sin. I was wondering if the pre-Christ literature mentions anything. It's such a fundamental principle of faith.
Nowhere.
I tried to find out if we could get the Jewish books. I went to one or two libraries. I could not even get a Old Testament. They are available, but they are all published by the Christians. I know
the only thing, in fact, whatever they believe is ultimately based on the Torah. And all the references ultimately lead to the book of the first book is creation, book of creation, what's the name? Genesis, and the following books. So there you find a mention that Adam committed a crime against God, that is sin. And he was led to that crime through Eve, his wife, or his spouse, maybe they were married or not married, this is a debatable question. And that was ultimately, she was employed to make him commit sin against God by Satan in the form of a snake who approached her and deceived her. This is the theory. And as a result, the punishment was announced there and then. The punishment would be that from now on, the woman would bear children with pain, and one will have to employ labor for his living, earn with the employment of labor, not easily like they lived in gardens with Eden, in such ease and comfort without working for anything. They were provided abundantly by God. So that was the background of this punishment, because right from now on you have to earn your bread, you have to earn your living. These were the two punishments announced, and they were announced for the entire posterity of human beings till the last day of their life. So no question of sin being inherited is mentioned there. The punishment being inherited is mentioned in so many words. So the Christians gave it a different term, although they base the belief on this incident quoted by the Bible, but they gave it a different term. They say what was inherited was sin. So everyone was born a sinner. Now if they base this on the same verses of the Bible, then they must follow the consequences as well and accept them. In that case, the sin punishment relationship is mentioned in totality. It should remain such. And if it can be changed, then prove it that it has been changed by the appearance of Jesus Christ. So because the punishment continues, the sin, if this is the reason of everybody being born a sinful person, then you have to accept that nothing has changed since the coming of Jesus Christ. Because the punishment continues, the sin must be there. Apart from that, I don't see any reference of inherited sin in any book or any religion.
This was my idea. This is such a basic and fundamental thing that the prophets before Christ, like the unity of God,
yes,
and the coming of the prophets, the proper coming out of the periods, all those things are mentioned, and it's such a basic thing is not mentioned. I was wondering whether there might be something.
No, but they base it on this.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, any other question, please? Yes. You can come before Mr. Bashir rises and occupies the floor for good.
Referring back to the topic of the spiritual advancement and suffering in its proper context, could it be the case that God might grant a person some type of trial to ensure his spiritual progress, and if we pray for the removal